Hey everybody, we're going to do something I've never done before on Way of the Carnivore Substack now, because it's always just been me talking. But this one is a real interview with another human being. So I've got Dr. Lynn McDonald, a very dear friend. We met in Spain, of all places. We live 20 minutes apart in the North Scotland, back end of Scotland. And we met at the monastery in Spain at Phil Scott's Carnivore Conference. New one coming up in November of this year. But we're not, well, we are going to be talking about carnivore a bit, but what I thought we could talk about is this thing that you've got me on, and which cards on the table, it appears to do everything it promises to do. And if it does, which I think it does, then this is probably, and I'm going out on a little bit of a limb, the number two biggest health hack or most effective health hack that you can do, with number one clearly being eating meat and fat. And the fact that meat and fat isn't, I've said this loads of times on this channel, meat and fat isn't magic. It's just putting everything in your body that it needs and as little as possible of what it doesn't, specifically the toxins like carbohydrates and lectins and phytates and saponins and all of those tannins and everything else. So, um, we're going to talk about what this is. Now, I've never promoted anything on this channel, but I'm promoting this. So, Lynn, welcome. Please would you tell the boys and girls what pHix is? pHix, pHix. Okay. Do you want to just give us an introduction?
Yes, into fix, absolutely. And I'm equally mind blown that we live so close together and we met in Spain. That's quite wild, but really fortuitous. So after we met in Spain, I came back from Spain and was told about this fix from a friend who lives in Florida. And she literally just said to me, Lynn, I know you like helping people with their health, and I've got something you might want to look at. And I was like, show me. Because I'm always open to seeing new things that I've never heard of. And this was actually brand new on the market last year in the USA. It was actually discovered in 1953, but was too expensive to market back then. The extraction technique was too expensive, so it was going to be an unaffordable product. It was going to cost $1 million per gallon to produce. So, and that is in old money, not in $1 million today, right? So, last year, the company that creates this product, and it create it exclusively for its own self. It doesn't white label and package and sell via any other means, but the actual main ingredient is a matured hops extract. It's MHE3. It is trademarked. It is available in that bottle and also in little individual units called snaps. And the company actually has launched this, and it's been so effective for people using it that, testimonies and word of mouth, it's all like really sort of gone really big really fast. So that's why they're putting it in the bottle as well. They couldn't make enough snaps to keep up with these individual units, so bottles as well. And what it is an extract from the hops plant. So hops itself, people will normally know, is used to make beer taste bitter. And it does have herbal properties itself in the actual leaf and the flower. Um, I think most people know the herbal properties are that it helps with sleep. But actually, when it's been created into this particular extract, it actually doesn't really have so many of the herbal properties. It's more the effect of um, the bitter acids, which trigger us and activate us into repair mode. That is how it works. So
Yeah.
it's literally just an extract of the hops plant in water. That's
Yeah.
all.
So it's literally a clear liquid. It's tasteless, and you put about that much into a drink in the morning, or if you want to do it, we'll talk about as well if you might use it twice a day. Okay, so it's an extract of the hop, and the hop is actually comes from the same genus as or not the same genus, but it's related to cannabis as well. So
Yeah.
these highly aromatic plants with lots of polyphenols, lots of aromatic polyphenols in them. So explain how it impacts the body first of all. So what's the first response when it hits the gut?
Yeah. So, um, the reason why we're putting it in a drink is we want it to go right down where we need it to do the job of activating the T2R receptors in the small and the large bowel. And when it does that, those are taste receptors. They're bitter taste receptors, and I actually never even knew we had them in our gut until until I actually got involved with this product in this company. But I've been like a little doing a lot of research since I joined because the testimonies are amazing, and I've just like been in active learning mode, hyper focus on something that's really good for us. So when it triggers the T2R receptors, they're attached to the little minute branches of the vagus nerve, which is the nerve, cranial nerve number 10, comes out of the um, um, brain stem, which is the lower sort of where between the spinal cord and the brain. Thank you for putting the picture up.
Yeah.
That's exactly where it is. It comes out of there. There's a left and a right vagus nerve, and they actually come out here through the jugular foramen, which is where the jugular vein also comes out of the skull down into the rest of the body. So it travels right down. It's actually named after the Latin Vega. I know you like your Latin.
Hmm. It means
Wandering.
to wander, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the wandering nerve. It is one of the peripheral nerves in the body. It's not part of the central nervous system because that's the brain and the brainstem and the spinal cord, but it's part of the autonomic nervous system rather than the usual parts of the nervous system that we hear about coming from the spinal cord. So this is not coming from the spinal cord, it's coming from the brain stem. And the autonomic nervous system has two parts to it. It's got the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, which kind of work opposing each other. So we want one to be activated sometimes, and we want to be more in parasympathetic mode at other times. So that's what it's really doing. It's telling the body that we've just been poisoned when we haven't been
Mm.
poisoned. It's triggering the vagus nerve. The brain then goes, "Oh my goodness, we're going to have to set ourselves into parasympathetic drive." So our standard setting, if you like, is sympathetic. That's that's important. Sympathetic is the fight and flight, freeze and fawn mode. So we're always kind of prepared to be running away from a lion if it's attacking us, or standing up and fighting for our life, or going into freeze mode in a moment where that's safer, or even fawning. Like people end up doing that if they've been chronically abused sometimes. And the easiest way for them to survive is to actually please the person who's doing that to them. But that's all part of being in the more stressed, cortisol fueled part of our way of being. And then opposing that, and you can't really activate the parasympathetic nervous system and stay in that state. You have to come out of that state when you activate the vagus nerve. And what the body cleverly does is when it's being poisoned from the inside, the the brain tells the body to go into rest and digest mode.
Mm.
That's the
So
way.
the vagus nerve, excuse me, attaches to and speaks to most of the internal organs going down to the intestine, right?
Yeah,
And but the information goes both ways. So it's feeding information to the brain, and the brain is feeding information through the vagus nerve as well to the organs. So
Exactly.
the message comes from the small and large intestine to say these bitter taste receptors have been triggered, which suggests there's something bitter, even though it doesn't taste bitter, there's something bitter in the system, which signals poison because that's what bitter taste is. That's why Brussels sprouts and cabbage and kale are so horrible because you're not meant to eat them. That's where the bitterness comes from. And rocket and lettuce and all these other things. Okay.
Yeah, so bitter taste receptors are in on our tongue, obviously. And so we can taste bitter, but this stuff doesn't taste bitter. It's kind of strange that it just tastes like water, but it is what it is. Um, we also have the same taste receptors in our lungs, in our sinuses, and other areas. And I think generally the body just it gets stimulated into self-protection mode when any of these, like, if we inhale something noxious, the bitter taste receptors in our lungs will pick that up, and that's another thing that will tell our body to go into repair mode. You have to. It can't go into let's run away from the lion when it's being poisoned. It's kind of either or.
Hmm. Okay, so where if the body thinks it's being poisoned, it kind of makes sense to go, all right, stop. Yeah, you can't be hunting right now. You need to go and lie down and you need to use everything that you've got to be as healthy as you can to fight off this toxin, this environmental toxin that somehow got in. Is that right?
Yeah. It basically it activates us. It activates us from that fight and flight stressed mode into now we can relax, now we can rest and digest. So the body just is actually put into where it should be most of the time.
Yeah. And that this is the thing that really fascinates me. We'll go on to talk, Lynn, in a minute about what it means, but what gets me is, and why I think this is so relevant to Way of the Carnivore, Red Pill Food Revolution, all the stuff we wrote about in there with our ancestral evolution, is that we would be hunting or fighting for a small part of your week, basically, and the rest of the time we would be preparing food, eating, lounging around, singing songs, telling stories, making jokes, or lying on furs and sleeping in pitch darkness, right? And of course, there'd be somebody out maybe keeping the fire going and listening out for wolves and stuff. So that individual would be in their sympathetic state, which is entirely 100% evolutionarily appropriate, right? They are going to be on edge. They're going to be listening for threats. They're going to have cortisol bubbling away, right? Which is the hormone that makes you alert. That's why coffee drinking will trigger that, for example. But it's also cortisol is also released when we're doing exercise, when we're doing sport, when we're hunting, right? It's that alertness thing. It's like you need to be on edge. But everyone else who they should have spent the last few hours in rest and digest mode. So in the parasympathetic state. So like what you're saying is that the sympathetic state is actually your default. We default to being stressed and alert and awake and vigilant, right? But when your organs say we've got food going round, or your brain knows there's no immediate threat, then it will go, okay, now it's fine. We're safe to relax into into rest and digest, and that's when you rebuild. So that's when you go into deeper sleep as well, because we can obviously have shallow sleep, which is less restorative, less you've got less repair going on, less um, autophagy and apoptosis, and cleaning out the old cells and the cancerous cells like that as well. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly right. So the you were saying the vagus nerve, it has the afferent path, which takes the signal up to the brain. The brain goes, oh my goodness, we're processing this information. And then it sends the efferent signal away from the brain down back back down the vagus nerve, which is attached to the larynx. It's involved in swallowing, it's involved in speech, the larynx, it's involved in innervating the heart, the lungs, the stomach, pancreas, the liver, the gallbladder, the spleen, the esophagus as well, and beyond the stomach down into the small and large bowel, right down to the transverse colon.
Hmm. But
And it also,
not the kidneys or the adrenals.
the kidneys, yes, not the adrenal glands.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So why does it matter if, let's say, our ancestors spent 20 hours of the day, right, when they weren't out foraging and having to keep an eye out for saber-tooths, or when they were in the camp and they were just happily making food or tanning leather or whatever they were doing, lounging around like predators do most of their time. Why does it matter that ancestrally we spent most of our lives in that parasympathetic state compared to what we have now? What's the difference?
Well, the difference is that you've done your hunting, you've killed the wild animal, you're now satiated with the food and the fat, and you're out of hunting mode, and then the body needs to assimilate everything it's just taken in. And what we do when we're in better parasympathetic tone is we're digesting and absorbing the nutrients much better than we would if we were not in that tone. And we are detoxing the liver enzymes, glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and everything going on in the liver is working better. Because the liver's got many functions. There's just so many processes and bits of the rest and digest mode that are handled by all these organs that are normally not being stimulated because we're stressed out. So what we need to do when I just think as humans, we've gotten used to being in that mode all the time in high stress. Like, I've got to pay my mortgage, I've got to have the best car, I've got to, it's all competition, it's all you can't switch yourself off. You can't allow yourself to rest because that's being lazy. Where actually, I'm of the opinion that you need to go energetically into action mode when you need to be in action mode, and the rest of the time, it's really vital to be in rest and digest mode because if you don't look after your body that way, if you're not emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically at your best, how are you going to function at your best at the times when you need to be in fight and flight mode? Because we do need that mode. We need a certain amount of cortisol, mostly in the morning, to get us up and out of bed and into action and doing the things that we need to do. But we just don't need to be in that mode all the time.
Yeah.
So it's going to help us with burning any fat reserves that don't need to be held onto and actually using them for better building blocks for the brain, for better brain function. The brain itself has a lot of mitochondria in it because it takes a lot of energy to even think. So
That's
energy,
what, 40% of your organ,
20%. So
20%
20
of all the body's energy. Yeah.
requirements are for brain function, yeah.
Yeah.
20%, and the brain only weighs 3% of the entire part of us. So we use a lot of energy just by thinking. And a lot of people overthink. I know I've been that person that overthinks a lot in my life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But also, detoxification is surely a thing. If the liver and the kidneys are stimulated when in the parasympathetic mode, then you'll be detoxing more readily. So it's that is the big shocker for me to think that m the majority of our lives we would have been in rest and digest, and quite honestly, how many hours of the day can people literally say, "Oh, I'm in proper, full, deep rest and digest mode"? Maybe that's what the blue blockers help with as well. Cutting out the blue light at night. But
Yeah.
this is on another level. If that's what it does, if like taking this on a regular basis forces your body, clicks it straight into rest and digest by tricking the gut, it is. it's a massive, massive life hack compared to any of these other things, like, grounding, even meditation and breath work, right? Which can help in that regard, right? But people are sitting there at night and thinking, oh, I'm going to have a beer, or I'm going to have a soda, and I'm going to watch this latest thriller. What's that thriller going to do for you? You've got adrenaline going around, you've got cortisol coming out, right? You're not in rest and digest. You're not sitting there just with all your system being able to go, "Ooh, relax, you know,
Yeah.
and you're not going to sleep deeply either. So, but what about also the endocrine side of things as well? Because cortisol kind of jumps the queue in terms of for hormone production, doesn't it? So, is it pregnenolone? The
Pregnenolone, yeah.
pregnenolone is the fundamental building block for the hormones, including the sex hormones and everything else, and insulin. But cortisol kind of jumps the queue. If your brain says, "Oh, we need cortisol right now," then it makes the cortisol out of the pregnenolone instead of testosterone and insulin and all of these others hormones that we could be using.
Yeah, so cortisol is one of the steroid hormones that is created from fat from the mother. The mother hormone is actually pregnenolone, like you said, which is produced in the mitochondria of the body. So pregnenolone is the mother of what then we can create cortisol from, or we can create testosterone, estrogen, progestogen, and human growth hormone. So if we've got a lot going towards cortisol, like unhelpfully going too much into cortisol, that robs us. It's called pregnenolone steal. It it robs us of the ability to make the proper amount of sex hormones for a start, which we need for proper fertility, for example, for secondary sexual characteristics, for all of the things that make us happier and more alive feeling. And the human growth hormone in all humans, that is for repair. It's particularly for building us up, building structures up in the body, repairing damage, and also in children, obviously for growth. Um, so if you imagine, for example, collagen. So in pretty much all of our body, we have collagen everywhere, okay? And in fight and flight mode, cortisol will actually start encouraging the body to break down collagen structures because we need to use our resources rather than build ourselves up. And then the opposite, the all of the other hormones will actually enable us to build structures. So if you imagine testosterone is an anabolic or a building hormone, right? So in men, their muscles are going to be more like built, right? If they're in rest and digest mode more. I mean, we know that from doing weightlifting, doing exercise that stresses our muscles out to the max. We then need to be repairing them in between times. We
But,
can't be
but when you're in the gym, sorry, when you're in the gym, you've got a level of cortisol going around the body, so you're going to be in that catabolic state in a way. So you literally don't build muscle in the gym. You
no.
build them, everybody knows this who weight trains. You build the muscle on the rest days. But this is literally true because you've got the cortisol going around your body. It's catabolic. So you're going to be breaking down these structures. So, for kata as in, break down, and bolic as in structure, rather than ana, which is new structure, right?
Yes, exactly. So in the gym, we're damaging our muscles deliberately by really working them hard, so that then when we're on our days off or time off the gym, that is when we're actually building them, like you say. So that is where we need to be in parasympathetic mode a lot of the time to
Yeah.
do that effectively.
So if you want to rebuild your body, whether it's your skeletal muscles or your organs, your brain, anything, then being in rest and digest mode is essential. But the problem is, I believe, like we said, that we are not in rest and digest. We are in fight and flight, even if it's in a moderate level, most of our lives in the modern day, and that's the problem.
And the thing is that we all know that there's a gut-brain connection as well. Um, and that, I think the vagus nerve is one of the hugest parts of this gut-brain connection that we can even think of. And if we've got a healthier brain, a healthier gut, and a healthier immune system, which is all tied in together, then we're actually helping every single cell of the body. But to go back to what you were saying about hormones, it's not just those hormones that are affected. The pancreas obviously produces insulin and glucagon, so that's going to be helpful towards our glucose level in the blood to be on something like this. And we are seeing people that are coming off their, especially their oral diabetic medication and being able to lower the amount of insulin that they need, even without them making dietary changes, which I think is quite amazing.
Yeah, because obviously you can reverse type 2 diabetes in particular with a high fat ketogenic or carnivore diet. But you're saying people who even carry on eating cupcakes can be taking fix. So let's, I
It's
know
not
that's
going to
extreme.
work so well for them if they can't eating cupcakes. I'm not going to
Yes.
lie, but people are going to be digesting and absorbing their food better, and they're going to be burning off their own fat because it does affect it increases thermogenesis in the brown adipose tissue, which needs to source the fuel from our white adipose tissue, which we find in our deep subcutaneous fat and in visceral fat, which is a huge topic actually in the carnivore community, visceral fat, because it's really, really hard to get rid of that.
Yeah. Visceral fat, the is a very, very powerful indicator of metabolic disorder and general ill health, isn't it? You can have people who are apparently skinny, they haven't got much subcutaneous fat, but even like behind their abdominal wall, they've got like a distended abdominal wall or whatever. You see a lot of men who've got, this big liver, maybe from drinking, but it's the visceral fat in there. I think Dr. Sean O'Mara is the guy to follow on that. He's done so many scans, hasn't he, of the abdominal cavities.
I love what he teaches about visceral fat, and I actually did try doing one of the suggestions that he made, which is going sprinting. Unfortunately, me and sprinting's just not vibing. So I ended up pulling a muscle and then I couldn't do my weightlifting at the gym very well. And I was just like, maybe not. But fortunately, then after that time, I found this product. And one of the things it is really good at is reducing visceral fat. And I have to say, it must be helping mine because, you know, a mum of 5 children, perimenopausal I am. And I definitely have narrowed down my waist and shrunk my stomach since starting on this. I've been on it since the first week in November, and there's definitely differences in me. And this is someone, because I have been strict carnivore for quite a long time now. I've been carnivore for over 5 years, and I've been weightlifting about the same length of time, that I didn't really have a lot of wiggle room to make many more lifestyle changes. Hence why I was trying to do the sprinting. I thought that might be a good idea, but it didn't work out for me. But I'm just really glad that I found this because it puts you into parasympathetic tone for a good 9.5 hours. Studies have shown that.
Yes, you take this and it locks you into that for 9.5 hours. That's incredible. So Lynn, let's talk about, if we can, cover what the benefits that you've personally seen, experienced, and observed. I mean, I can talk about the difference in me. I think the probably the main thing that I noticed after taking it, and this was immediate. I mean, literally the same day. It seemed like my my negative self-talk melted away. It seemed to switch off. So that for me was miraculous because I've got this, very self-critical ADHD, mind monkey chatter going on in the background the whole time. And it's just like gone down to a whisper, almost nothing overnight. Sleep is better, particularly if I take the second dose like tea time. Sleeping not necessarily longer. I mean, I have had a couple of, 8 to 9 hour sleeps, but waking up really quite refreshed. And I've had a few days recently where I've woken up at 3 a.m. and I've gone, okay, I'm ready to start the day now, which is, but just if you can, and to anyone who's listening, suspend your disbelief for a minute because the stories of, go on, Lynn, over to you.
Well,
What are you
I've
doing for
had,
people?
I mean, do you want me to tell you about some of the testimonies I've personally heard from people, or my own, or
Whatever you like.
sure. Okay. So my own, apart from the shrinking of my waistline, which was really like I actually was already in my normal weight range when I started this product. So I wasn't actually looking to see any change in that. But I thought I better just take I never normally weigh myself. I better just weigh myself just for the record. And yeah, I lost 4 pounds in 2 weeks, which was like, oh, that's quite unusual.
And that's
Um,
not water weight. That's not, this is your long-term carnivore.
yes,
So you've
exactly.
not changed anything in your workout routine or anything else.
No, someone asked me that today actually, and I said, well, no, I didn't really change anything at all in what I was eating or what I was doing. But when I started on the product, I did feel more thirsty, so I was drinking more water. So I must have been flushing out some toxins, which we know fat holds on to toxins, especially the visceral fat, because that's the safest thing for the body to do is to dump toxins into the visceral fat so that it's not actually in the vital organs. So, I mean,
Mm. And
but
sorry, of course, just to interject, evolutionarily, you would be putting down that fat after a feast, and you might then go a few days or a week or whatever between big meals. So at which point your body is meant to be using that fat. That's why human beings have got, like, in the case of men, approximately 20% body fat, which is huge, very, very high compared to, other apes are like 0 to 5%, right? Hippopotamus has got like 3 to 4% body fat. They look enormous. But Labradors, lions, human beings, all the carnivores, we've got many, many more fat cells. We've got a higher percentage of fat. Why? Because everyone's always eating. And so you should be burning your own body fat between meals.
yeah,
So that's what it's there. We'd
yeah,
store some toxins away, and then over the next few days or over the winter, you'd burn them out and you'd breathe them out, pee them out, whatever, and you'd be absolutely fine. The problem is what we've got today. Everyone's in super accelerated fat storage mode 365 days of the year with all their high fructose corn syrup and seed oils going in. That we're storing toxins on top of toxins on top of toxins and never really burning it off.
yeah. The storage of fat, we will put on fat when we're consuming carbohydrates, pretty much. Um, So as carnivores, we know we don't do that, but we can still find it really hard to get rid of fat stores that have been there for a long, long time. And many carnivores do find it hard to get rid of their visceral fat, and that is storage that has been built up over many, many years. And I guess, like, if you're an Olympic sprinter, you're not going to have much visceral fat at all, but few people are Olympic sprinters or that level. So, um, having a product that helps specifically to target that is incredible. And it's doing that not by the mechanism by which it does that is completely natural. It's triggering the vagal nerve. It's not like doing something weird to the body which increases the heat generation by like um thermogenic products can actually be quite harmful sometimes. They can put you into a sort of hyper sort of state, and it's not doing that. It's actually a really gentle, steady fat burning over a long period of time because it's all natural. It's the body's being activated, it's not being stimulated, it's being activated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's using its own natural processes
Yes.
within its own normal parameters of operation as well, not like something like Ozempic.
Yeah, or even caffeine. Caffeine stimulates us and we're more active or other things that you could think of, like, illegal drugs like speed or whatever,
Mm.
will like have someone wired to the moon and running around and doing things like that. But this is very effective because it's over a long period of time.
Okay,
But
so sorry, aside from fat loss,
yeah.
what are the other big ones that
Oh,
you've
brain health.
personally?
Oh my goodness. I'm seeing testimonies of people with their dementia being improved, with menopausal, not just the menopausal brain health aspects, because there's a lot of, well, I saw this in general practice when I was still working as a GP. The menopause, loads of women had a bad time with anxiety and depression going along with it. And there's a lot of talk, is it actually because of the menopause or is it a separate thing? Because both things are quite common at that age. But um, when you have the hormones working better for you and the fat being burnt, and the brain working better, we're seeing a lot of people that are menopausal really benefiting from this product in so many ways. Their hot flushes are going, they're happier, they're losing weight, not gaining it, because for women especially, the menopause is a time when classically you're putting on weight around the middle area. Men too. For men, as you said earlier, the men who struggle because their bellies are more pudgy, that's usually visceral fat that's causing that. You can see the muscles are like bulging out in front of the fat, and by getting rid of the visceral fat, we're actually decreasing our chance of cancer. We're decreasing our chance of cardiovascular disease, so that's strokes and heart attacks mainly. We're going to decrease our chance of type 2 diabetes, and we're definitely going to be decreasing our chance of Alzheimer's. Studies have shown that there's a real correlation between a really interesting correlation between visceral fat and developing such like as Alzheimer's. And the interesting thing is that we can't make medical claims. You can't do that. Everybody's different. I'm not here to diagnose this or say that I can treat or cure anything with this. But if people try it and they're putting their bodies into rest and digest mode, they can see what effects that has for themselves when they're normally not in that mode.
Mm. So what other? Because I
Yeah.
know you've got reams of stories from people who've.
Yeah. So autoimmune disorders as well. I've seen people who've completely gone into remission from ulcerative colitis. I've got a friend in Australia who messaged me and said between September and the end of December, yep, her ulcerative colitis completely went away. And I messaged her actually yesterday and she says, yep, all good, still gone. And she's not carnivore. And the only other thing that I have seen that does that naturally is carnivore. I've got a lovely lady who's actually just started her daughter who's got Rett syndrome, which is a really rare genetic disorder that mostly affects girls. If boys have it, then they normally don't live long. But for the girls that have it, they normally survive into their midlife, where things are going great for them. It's almost like if you imagine a child having cerebral palsy, severe autism, being nonverbal, not being able to use their hands, kind of locked in on themselves, but they understand everything. They just can't. They just can't interact socially because they're kind of locked in on themselves. Um, Also, they may have some Tourette's. They might have one word here or there, or they might shout things out, but they're not actually able to like speak properly in sentences, and they might be very dyspraxic as well. They're usually small children, but they are really prone to having bowel trouble, like really, really prone to have really bad digestive disorders, and that can be a lot of wind built up and really uncomfortable for them. And given that they can't communicate very well, they just seem to be distressed, clenching their hands a lot, not being able to use their hands. So this mother, I spoke to her for a good 1.5 hours on Friday night, and she told me that her child, um, who is 9, she is now going from a position where she used to have really, really bad digestion and this trapped wind all the time to She just doesn't have that anymore. She's normal with that now, and it's amazing. And she went from really, really broken sleep to now being able to sleep from 7 till 7, 12 hours of unbroken sleep. And she's only been on this for like 2 weeks, and she's only taking 3 drops twice a day, which is well under what the adult dose is. The adult dose is
Yeah.
1.2 pills once a day. Some people do like, and I do like to take it twice a
Yeah.
day.
So that's, don't know how many drops there is in 1.2 mil.
Oh, we've had people who, well, I've got one lady who's actually a friend of mine who um, started at 15 stone and she's losing weight. She says like butter melting off a hot pan, and she's experiencing a feeling of being like calm, but the most mentally alert she's been in her life. And her atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat that she's had for a long time, has completely gone away. She's got a normal heart rate now.
Yeah, that might be something that people wonder is like, will it, if it puts me in rest and digest, will it make me dopey? And I've not found that at all. I've found what it's made me is, I think the mental change, I would say just a baseline feeling of well-being.
Yeah.
So alert, but and calm at the same time, but just feeling like
Yeah.
crack on, positive. Lovely,
Just
lovely
feeling
feeling.
generally amazing. And I just think that goes back to your state of you can naturally feel amazing when you give your body the right conditions. And one of them is better sleep. I mean, we know when we improve our sleep quality, that helps us to do better exercise. It helps us to work better. It helps us to be happier during the day. So even if you've got something that helps you to get a better night's sleep, and this product is doing that pretty much across the board for everybody that's on it, um, whether that is like the direct effect on sleep or something else that it's doing, like, maybe people don't need to have so many trips to the toilet to empty their bladder during the night. That's going to give you a better night's sleep. Or maybe they're not in pain now with their usual pain that they get. That's going to give you a better night's sleep. So the whole thing, and what I love about it is it seems to me it helps every single cell in your body, and so if it's doing that, it's helping all of your functioning. It's going to help you get the best out of your life. And that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? We're trying to help people. Well, like you said to me, we're all here to help each other home, aren't we?
Mm,
Like,
yeah,
and actually, I do believe from the spiritual level that our birthright is to be happy.
yeah, yeah. And to do that, we should be in rest and digest for most of our waking lives. And of course, yes, we should be in contact with Mother Earth and not running around on rubber-soled shoes and driving around on rubber-wheeled cars and everything like that. But yeah, just the ability to put us back into that where we are. And it's like the alternative to this is go and sleep in a hut on the earth with with furs or animal skins. It's sitting around the campfire in the evening, right? It's eating natural food and drinking fresh water from a glacier, right? And getting lots and lots of sunlight on your skin and sleeping in pitch darkness and being safe and secure at the same time without being worried by wolves or other large predators, right? That would have the same effect. The problem is you can't do that when you're on screens most of the day, when you're worrying about your rent and your mortgage and your bills and your credit card and all of this stuff and social media and all these constant interruptions that we have. But
Yeah.
which is why I think this is to me, because I've done one, I looked into Cerul's stem enhanced thing, right? I took that for a few months and it's a the idea is fantastic, produces more adult stem cells. I couldn't say what a difference it made, and certainly not to the point where I could personally justify investing every month in that. With pHix, I literally felt it within 24 hours. I felt the benefit and knew the benefit. So to me, this isn't a case of, can I afford to take this on a constant basis? This is a case of I need to take this on a constant, every day from now on. Um, and that's like a non-negotiable as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that completely because that's the same for me. I'm that person that wants to take this for the rest of my life because I think if you're improving the health of your cells all the time and you're helping your body to detox because we're bombarded with toxins and stress constantly, um, then we're setting ourselves up for a much healthier future. So if you can eat as well as you can and avoid particular stressors as much as you can. But if you can add something like this in that helps you cope and helps your cells repair, then that's an amazing life hack, isn't it? And
Yeah.
for me, it's as important as eating right and going to the gym and the lifestyle that I've created, which I really love, is another way that I keep myself healthy because I mean, I left medicine because I was burnt out and stressed.
Mm.
I actually wish I could take this product and go back in time with it and give it to my patients. And I think it would have helped them in a whole bunch of ways that I could not have helped my patients. And I wasn't helping my patients because we didn't have something that just helped them get in. Do you know what? The number of times people used to come in to me and say, "Well, doctor, can you just prescribe me a holiday in the sun?" This is like that. It's like, well, no, I can't, but I could maybe recommend a product that you'll feel like you've got a life you don't need to escape from because you're naturally being put into the best state for you.
Mm.
So
I
yeah,
also suspect that having better supply of sex hormones will have a very positive effect on my mental state as well. I can't point, I mean, I've not had a testosterone test, you know, but
right.
I strongly suspect that that is a factor there.
I strongly suspect too, because the vagus nerve is very heavily connected to sexual functioning as well. And all of the things that go with that. And you can take your imagination anywhere you like with that. But I strongly recommend people look up the vagus nerve, what it is, what it does in the body. And that is exactly what this product is going to help um, to function better, the vagus nerve.
Yeah, yeah. So what we're really saying is, and I never thought I would be because I mean, look, you and I don't take, I'm sure, many supplements, right? I've taken some iodine in the past and sea salt, but that's really it, you know.
Yeah, I
But
do take iodine. I take 2 drops of Lugol solution every single day.
mhm.
And I think that's mostly because I was pretty much, if you'd seen me a few years ago, you would have seen I was much more like a hypothyroid person um, back in 2017. And the things that I've done since then, I've been getting better and better. But I think iodine's a really good one because I think the vast majority of the world are deficient in it.
Because many of our soils are deficient in it. Yeah, and if you don't live by the sea, you don't get the seaweed or the seafood. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they call the goiter belt in the United States, or like in the Midwest, where people would get these really swollen necks, the goiter, and they also call it Derbyshire neck in England as well. So county where I used to live, because it's as far away from the sea as you can get 'em. That was a lot more common in Derbyshire as well.
Well, I did not know that, Ben.
There you go. So I mean, as a GP, if you'd have been able to prescribe pHix
Mm.
to your patients,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it would you would have been prescribing it almost universally for not just, metabolic disorder and obesity.
100%. I've got a lady who started at 20 stone 4 7 weeks ago. She's got fibromyalgia. She's diabetic, type 2 on metformin. She is a smoker and still is smoking. She hasn't let go of that yet, but we're working on that because, and you and I both know that it's more than willpower when it comes to letting these things go. It's energetic. It's, trapped grief and letting go of old sorrow and things like that, to really help people that are actually trying to stop smoking. But she's not even stopped smoking yet, okay? She's still got that. She's 51, I think. Um, and she was unable to sleep through the night because she was getting up 3 times to go to the toilet to pass urine. And she, about 3 weeks into this product, she was telling me that even despite the fact she still smokes, this is all happening, right? She had lost by then 10 pounds. She now has no fibromyalgia pain. She can sleep through the night, not having to get up to go and pee. And she now walks her dog. She can walk now a mile a day. And her mood is better. She's so much happier, and she's now got a gap between the steering wheel of her car and her stomach. It's things like that that I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's not a single thing that I could have given her in general practice that would have had all of those bodily effects on her.
Or any of those effects without side effects. I mean, are there any known side effects to taking fix?
Exactly. I could have tried to give her an antidepressant, a weight loss thing, whatever. But I wouldn't actually. I never even used to give people anything for weight loss because they had terrible side effects. And that was before the days of Ozempic. Um,
So,
I
are there any side effects to this, or is there anyone who shouldn't take it or who should take it under medical advice?
When people ask me if they're on medication, take it at least 2 hours before or after any kind of medication. They may need to get their medication and things like blood pressure and blood glucose and thyroid function monitored more closely because they may need to reduce their medication that they're on for these things. Because so they could end up over medicated as a result of the body now starting to repair itself and work better. Um, so no, there's not really anything I can think of. I haven't heard of anyone being allergic to it yet. I suppose that could be a thing if you were allergic to the hops plant, but I haven't come across that situation yet. Um, but yeah, there's not anything that I could have done about anyone's fibromyalgia in general practice. And for someone to have zero pain now that and can actually stand at her cooker and cook without being sore, I mean, that's life-changing in itself, isn't it?
That's incredible, and to be able to do it safely without side effects. So, um, where is it available? Who can get it?
So anyone watching this can get it from yourself, Ben.
Well, certainly if you're in, because it's not available in every country, is it?
Oh yeah, at
So
the moment,
you said it came out in, is it the US and Canada?
initially, yes. So at the moment, we're in US and Canada, available for customers and for people signing up to get the wholesale price, which is an independent sales rep, which is probably the best way of doing it because the company's quite happy for people just to behave as a customer on the wholesale price.
Yeah.
Okay. But in other countries, we're in the UK, um, South Africa, Botswana, and the Philippines, New Zealand, and Australia for people to get it on the wholesale as an ISR. And anyone can do that. You don't need to be committing yourself to running a business, and you don't need to meet any targets or buy every month. If you're an ISR, you don't need to. You can just buy it whenever you want to.
Yeah. So the marketing model is network marketing slash multi-level marketing model as that people might be familiar with. I've had some really interesting conversations because Cerule is their business works the same way. I had a interesting conversation with Mark Atwood about this in the summer, about the network marketing model, because a lot of us are kind of distrustful of it and go, oh, I've had my mates trying to flog me this rubbish. We've all been there, with your Herbalifes and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but in my conversation with Mark, we were saying actually, if looking towards a new world and a new economy where we the people decide what's good, and we the people, recommend and sell to each other rather than going to your GP or Amazon or the government or these massive corporations to tell you what's good for you. This is us figuring out for ourselves what's good for us, listening to each other, going on real recommendations, and so you're not paying your money to the Amazons and these big distributors and big pharmaceutical companies with trillion-dollar budgets. This is one company. So it's Marketplace Global is the company that manufactures and sells it, right? But it's not on general release. So it's actually kind of very, very early days to get on board.
Yes,
Right.
it's really early days. The product was only launched last summer. Technically, the company's actually technically still in formulation and concentration mode, which is very early in a network marketing company's evolution, let's put
Mm,
it that way.
yeah.
So it's only a 3-year-old company. It started with a couple of other products, but then when they launched this fix, that's when it went boom
Yeah.
and really started to explode because of the testimonies, because the people joining were so excited. We've got Dr. Ben Bowers, who's amazing. He's an absolutely amazing guy, and I've learned a lot from him. Um, we've got so many naturopaths, so many nurses, so many doctors like myself, so many people who are on board with this just because of how amazing it is to get this nerve stimulated properly for a decent length of time as well. And we've just started having quite a few people in network marketing, and I've been in network marketing for 9.5 years, and I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a company with such, it's really keeping up with customer support, customer demand brilliantly, given the explosive growth. I mean, the first 2 years, it was turning over for $3 and $4 million. Once they launched Fix last year, between June and the end of the year, that was a $40 million turnover. So the
In
company is really,
7 months. Wow.
yeah, yeah. And this year, their estimation, which I think is a huge underestimation, going by what I'm seeing in this company, is that they'll be having a hundred million turnover. I think it's going to be more.
Hmm. So
And
currently people can't sign up as just a customer in the UK, Botswana, South Africa, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, but you can sign up as a ISR, independent sales rep. So for full
anyone,
disclosure, I'm an ISR and I've signed up under Lynn.
yeah,
Um, and so what's involved is it's $30, 29.95 plus tax, whatever your relevant local tax is, to sign up for your year's membership. And you can click on this. So this is my link below this video. This is my independent sales rep page. You click there to pay your 29.95 plus tax, and that gives you your annual membership. And then when you get an email through, then you can go ahead and you can get. So this is basically 2 months supply, isn't it? If you're using one dose a day,
yeah,
and that's 169.95 plus local taxes, whatever that comes out at,
yeah,
for 2 months. And but this is wholesale rates. But if you are in the US or Canada, you can sign up as a just a customer, and you'll be paying pedestrian rates for that full customer.
yeah. The amount for a customer in the US and Canada is 99.95 for 30 or 89.95 for 30 on subscription.
Okay.
So monthly subscription. So it is quite a good saving to be on wholesale because the wholesale price will be 79.95 for 30. And ISRs in the USA do not need to pay postage.
Okay. Yeah. So, and obviously, it goes without saying that if anybody has any experience in network marketing, that this is definitely something that you should check out because it's such early days. So the sooner you get on board with something like this, the I imagine the better it can work out. Um, so yeah, just final comments then on this. I mean, to me, the real mind blowing one is that like you said, birthright. You mentioned that word before. That we are meant to. We're meant to eat meat and fat, right? We're meant to think like predators and behave like predators, but our society pushes us to behave like livestock, to be constantly under this and I've been saying this for well over a year, that we're living under this cloud of cortisol, of mild panic, like sheep and rabbits and other herbivores do. And that's not the way that we're meant to live, and it's not the way that our bodies work. We are meant to go from brief acute periods of activity and adrenalized, action, right? And then extended periods of rest, recuperation, relaxation, rebuilding, when your body repairs itself, and you just have to wonder, what would the human body and the experience of living in a human body, what is it really meant to be like, and how close have any of us actually got to that experience of life? I don't know how to answer that, but taking this to me is opening that door. So to me, and it's almost it's mind bending to even to have this conversation, but it seems to be. I mean, look, that's why I've said it's after eating the species appropriate human diet, it is probably the number two most effective health hack that I've ever discovered.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I totally agree with you. And it's really early days. And what floats my boat the most is finding out how much more it can help the people that are already on it when they're on it over a longer period of time still. Because I'm sure the effects are going to be compounding.
Hmm.
Um, and also to find out what else it's going to be helping people with, because that's what really sets my soul on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and any other closing points, Lynn, on this, or any advice you
Um,
might have?
Just, I just think it pays to be open-minded, and I think even trying it out is going to be a good idea, I think. Thank you, Ben, for welcoming me onto your channel. I feel honored.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you.